For many of you, the relationship was never going to manifest or work out for you in a way that was going to be to your benefit. It just was not going to do that or be that. And it's a matter of, at that point, well, how much are you prepared not to have in way of good, and how much are you prepared to put up with by way of bad? Now you've got to be careful, because when you're in a bad relationship, you're subjecting yourself to abuse. And abuse inevitably leads to sickness, mental health sicknesses, and physical sicknesses as well. And a lot of us take these realities for granted. You could be with somebody that is absolutely fine on the surface, fine for the most part of the relationship, and there's just elements within it, like the drinker, the drug addict, the sex addict can be very difficult as well. I've had a couple of somatic narcissists that are sex orientated. They just come for their sexual supply, then go off again. Sorry, I'm just getting in the water. These people waste years off your life. So I think it's love, but it's not. And everybody ends up confused and disappointed. At the end of it all, by the negligence of it all. It's just selfish, endless sessions of sex that really don't account for anything. And they're certainly not building love, that's for sure. So, all these things lead to eroding your life. You can't get any regulation in the relationship because they're coming and going and toing and throwing. You'll see a lot of people in military. Their partners struggle because they're coming and going and toing and throwing. It takes a very unique couple to be able to make it work. I think a lot of the time military people end up with military people because they understand the toings and throwings. That's why a lot of addicts end up with 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 during the course of their life, different addicts, because even though they know the relationship's not going to last, they understand the dynamics of what's going on, the negligences that are associated with it, the selfishnesses, but they probably hang around for the extra sex, and that wears the relationship out as well, because there's no substance behind it. You're just going up to the Bowser, filling up your tank, emptying out their tank. And I want to say something here that you may never have heard again, and everybody loses. And what I mean by that is, sex has a way of making you feel like you're being filled by the other person. but you're not. That's just the moment. That's just the arousal. You're actually emptying yourself. There's a great loss in immoral sex, in trash, self-trashing sexual activities. You're not being filled at all. You're being emptied. You're being wasted, because sex is not a drug. It's just when you use it wrong, you get the same negative consequences and effects as drugs and alcohol. You're just wasting yourself into something at a high level that was never going to give you a return, a long-lasting return. Anybody can exchange sex. The somatic sexual person usually doesn't need somebody else for orgasm. What they'll do is come alongside you, and it's the same as these people that don't want to die alone. They don't want to waste themselves sexually alone. So they waste you while they're wasting themselves immorally in the bedroom. And it's all wonderful and fantastic, but how many times do we see that it ends up broken? It ends up broken because the motives are wrong, the structure is wrong, the way it's all been gone about is wrong, and everybody ends up emptied, fed up, frustrated, angry, disappointed, sick, sad, and in regret. Because they didn't have the intelligence or the wisdom to have the give, take, care and share mentality that they should have had, rather than just running the relationship as a convenience and means of supply. That's disposable. That's devaluable. And when you find yourself in these relationships that can and usually will have impacts on you that are not good, you carry that person around in your mind. Well, after they're gone, they keep jumping up in your thinking. You end up confused as to whether you really love that person or not. For the most part, you couldn't stand them. It was just a convenience. You work out that their values were nothing like your own and were never going to be like yours. And that you entrained yourself. You can entrain yourself. And the other person went along with that, in training you and themselves into this sunken relationship investment. It was never going to go anywhere. It was never going to be anything. It was never going to help anyone. They were just sessions of intimacy or sex, passionate sex, that wasn't even going to build memories that were worth hanging on to. Driven by drugs usually, or fueled by alcohol. And if sex isn't approached properly, people will begin to repunge one another, be repulsed by one another, because underneath they realize that's all this is. They can't fabricate or build anything positive out of it except the next expectation of sex. And if the sex doesn't go well, things really get confusing, because that's not part of the plan. If the relationship's built on this so-called wonderful sex, fantastic sex, and the next thing, we're not getting the results that we wanted. Well, everything goes out the window. The relationship goes out the window, and now we've got to find a way of jettisoning the relationship, the meetings. Oh, and in the middle of trying to jettison it, all of a sudden there is a revival, and so it's back on again, because absence makes the heart fonder. So it goes round and round in circles, the road to nowhere. Everyone's conditioned themselves, or the couple has conditioned themselves to be on it, and they end up with nothing to show for it, except their moments of sexual experience. And drug addicts will tell you that even the sex becomes valueless. There's no value in it. It's just a way of getting supply and some intimacy from the devil you know, or strangers if the devil you know is not around, or there's been a fallout. And it's just a vicious cycle that profits no one. It's waste. Waste after waste after waste. And you never feel safe or secure. You never feel completely like you have something you can hang on to, because one of the rewards of this kind of lifestyle is you will not be hanging on to something that's rebellious. It's like a dog that you can't tame, or that just won't listen, but it's all so subtle. Then when 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, 2 years, for some of you decades have gone by, and you somehow or other, by the extremity of it all, realize that you've just wasted time with this person that was never going to develop to suit you or anybody else for that matter. They were too selfish. And when you've realized that you've been duped, completely duped, totally duped, it can be very confronting, terribly confronting. And some of you may never ever recover from the abuse. You may never ever come back from the depth of what you got yourself into. You were in too deep, and the damage was done. So they go their way back into their coven. You go your way back into yours. Everyone's now all alone and sad and sorry. You get all the, you didn't listen, I don't want to see you anymore, stay away or I'll call the police, all this stuff. Seen it all. They've usually met somebody else, some that day, because they can't run out of their supply. And you're kicked to the curb, and now it's on you to work out how you're going to come out of it. And for some of these people, they just go deeper into drugs, deeper into alcohol, deeper into reckless sex, until they're completely self-trashed. And in a welfare system and recovery system, or they set up little self-medication therapy systems in their own homes, which don't work. They just keep them sane, just sane enough to be able to continue to work. A lot of these people are in our communities working, and they're clever and cunning. They know how to get the money, and they will. And a lot of them get exposed and locked up and put away as well. So if this is you, I hope you can find your way out of the drugs and alcohol and other things that are going to sabotage you and ruin you and wreck you. Bit by bit, some people go straight out of it overnight. Others never fully recover, but get to a point that's satisfactory enough to say, well, you're better than you were. Just stay there. That'll do. And hopefully, if this is you and you found yourself in this predicament, you'll find a way out, a way to improve, and you'll come back to yourself and offer yourself a better way of life, a healthier way of life. One where you're not ending up in a hospital wishing that you hadn't have cursed and ruined yourself with wrong choices the way that you did for years and years and years.